Hi all. Happy almost Halloween. Hello. How are we this Wednesday? This almost Halloween Wednesday. I'm so glad y'all are here. I know we're starting to get into some holidays. Oh yay, you ordered beads. Phenomenal. Hello all. Yes, I know we're talking about nationalism today, but I could not resist dressing up like Faithful or Pounce, depending on the series. Thank you. Hello, welcome Sandver. So glad you're here. Made it. Hello all. Thank you. We're glad to have you as long as you're here. I was planning on being another character from the Tamora Pierce universe today, but my spikes did not arrive in time, and so I went with a backup. Fortunately, I have access to some prime 1988 years, so I'm so excited for it. Say that because you weren't allowed to buy more until 2026. Then you joined a club no one wants to be in. Exactly. It's an awful club. And you deserve beads. After my dad, I got really into resin and woodworking. So I made daggers. That was a big thing for a long time. I highly suggest crafting. Hey all. I'm so glad y'all are here. We're going to start anytime really. This book club, I'm so excited for it. Originally I planned to have this book club be kind of about cosplay and seeing if other people had ideas for cosplay, really giving a chance to just for us to get dressed up and hang out together. But in our live last week, we had such a phenomenal comment about the intersection of home and nationalism that we decided as a book group to talk about nationalism this week. So I wanted to revisit that comment and read it out for everybody just to kick us off for this discussion. And then as always, I have ideas that I would love to talk about, but I would love to hear more from everybody else, what you are thinking when it comes to the Tamora Pierce universe and nationalism as a whole. And so to kick that all off, I'm going to start with the comment that we got last week that kickstarted this whole discussion. So yes. Yeah, totally allowed to join book club if you haven't read it in 20 years. Absolutely. We're doing a great one. So glad that you're here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the comment that got us started for today. And we're talking about nationalism again in Tamora Pierce's universe. And we're doing a little cosplay Halloween time because we can. We can be whimsical and talk about deep things at the same time. And so the comment that really kicked it off is from last week. Dun, dun, dun. I think it's a really interesting, and we were talking about home last week, just to fill everybody in. I think it's an interesting comparison for Alana, Dane, and Kel especially to see their respective thoughts on home and nationalism. These are just my thoughts. Make Leo, we love you for them. Alana is really connected to Tortal as a whole and a country. Her upbringing as an isolated noble, training with John and others really anchored her in Tortal. Dane doesn't really have a real loyalty to a country. Her loyalty is to the people she cares about. She doesn't really care about borders, which is influenced by her connection to all animals. Kel has a similar view to Alana with a noble upbringing on responsibility to protect Tortal first, but her time in the Yumani Islands, I think, gave her a more wide view of loyalty to people over country. And that really hit home for a lot of people, myself included. It was such a great analysis of home and Tamora Pierce that we wanted to talk about it this week too. And so I would love to just open the floor and see what others have been thinking about this week and how it fits into the Tamora Pierce universe. And yes, I'm dressed as Faithful, and I would also love to know I have been referring to myself as Faithful, occasionally Pounce, but that's just where my loyalties lie. Fabulous. I'm so glad y'all are here. How do we think Allie views nationalism and loyalty to our country? I think that's a really good question. You've been having trouble annotating her first book for your fanfic. Ooh, I would love to hear more about that. I think Allie's views on nationalism and loyalty to her country, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but the idea, she's more attached to ideas. So the idea of freedom, the idea of change, rather than, and like the idea of home, the idea of the Copper Isles or a family. But I'm really curious what other people think. You love the Wild Mage series the most. It's so good. Okay, it's over here. You can't quite see it. I'm hiding it. You think that the epilogue shows a lot about how Allie feels about it. I completely agree. My favorite part, not my favorite part, but I love the part where she tells her dad to get out. She chooses a side. And I think she even chooses a person, too, and a potential destiny. I think Allie's people over country. I agree. I think Allie's more loyal to her family than anything. That's an interesting take. Because I wonder how far that family extends. Whom she considers part of that family. I think she has a lot of chosen family. That makes a big difference. It makes sense since her god is the trickster god. Yes, I was thinking about that. How does that play into this idea of her nationalism and loyalty? And she refused to agree to be spy master until she told Dev. Yes, I just have a fur ball, I suppose, caught in my throat. I agree. I think that spy master piece also comes back around to one of the reasons why I love Tamora Pierce's characters is that in the end, they really do choose themselves. They choose themselves. And Allie wanted to be a spy since the moment we met her. And so her becoming a spy master is just in line with her character. You're pretty sure if the goddess asked Alana to betray Tortall, she would have at least been tortured. Oh, absolutely. There's a part of me that thinks she would have said no thanks to the goddess or found a way around it. The idea of Tortall as a whole. I wonder less with Alana, but I do wonder with a lot of the knights, what Tortall are they defending? What is their idea of a Tortall? And I think there are so many different layers to that, depending on upbringing, class, who you're around, whether or not you're an immigrant to the country. Like Dane, she crossed borders to be there. True. Kel was ready to risk it all to get rid of... Kel was ready to risk it all to get rid of the nothing man. Yeah, borders don't matter to her. They do, but she'll choose people. She'll absolutely choose people. The autocorrect gets me all the time. You don't think it's challenged much in the narrative. Tortall is presented as good. That's one of the points that I wanted to bring up is what is Tortall? I think we see moments where the idea is questioned or the system that the systems that represent it are questioned. I'm thinking particularly about Kel and Lalassa. I'm thinking about Dane, or even the changes that are made off screen, so to speak, the changes that are made between Alana's books and Kel's books, or even Alana's and Dane's about who's included, who can be a soldier. So I agree. I think that Tortall is presented as good, and there are flashes where it's kind of questioned, but overall the idea of it is unquestionably good. I think it's an idealistic view. I completely agree. You mean you're sure there's a lot of propaganda? Oh no, the comment. Okay. Propaganda that goes into the concept of teaching knight's chivalry. Yes. And how much have they had up until that point? Chivalry itself, I think, is propaganda. And having a sense of home, and whether that extends to like their lands. I think there are certain characters that we see who are much more part of their family's legacy than others, and who actively choose to defend Golden Lake, or Allie, who kind of abdicates her role in Tortall entirely. But I don't know how much. I'm sure there was talk of chivalry in her home, but maybe not as much as what to do in a rogue's court. And then when it's tied to John, Kel challenges it. I agree with that. I think that's one big divide with John, is that Kel was not granted the same allowances that Alana seemingly was in his eyes. I think it was a useful narrative device, literary device, but I think it shows John's challenges as a king more so than anything, which is another interesting point. Have the intersection of nationalism and a king, and we know those characters so well. Kel's idea of Tortall, you think, was laid out pretty bare when she meditated for her knight's ordeal. I agree with that. I think that was a very beautiful representation, and it's something she goes back to over and over again. Like Kel's brother that dangled her off the building doesn't see the comic folk as people. Absolutely. And there are plenty of other characters that we see where that is the central plot point around them, is that they don't see people, non-nobles, as people or even humans. Isn't John's grandfather the one who unified its generations removed from what they did to New? Yes, the Bazir. So they start to talk about that a little bit. Yes. And then we had the Peacemaker. It's a generational struggle to unify, create a country. It's fascinating. Okay, I'm catching up on the comments. You all are wonderful. Miles knew it was propaganda. Yes. We love Miles. And it's interesting how that evolves with John, and how it is seen as unifying further when he becomes the voice. Since Tortall is a monarchy, you would argue that John is really the concept of Tortall itself. I think that's a really interesting argument. And I think that's something that's even really reinforced in Linus Rampant with the jewel, the Dominion jewel, and being of the land, the magic being of John and of the land. He is the only one who can wield it. I think that that's really reinforced there. I agree with that. No wonder Miles drank so much. I'm sure he had a whole host of reasons. Yes, Aubrey, especially with the Dominion jewel. Yeah, John is literally part of the land in Tortall. And I think that's an interesting piece about it too, is that the land is alive. The animals, we have a direct connection to the animals through Dane, so we know what they're thinking. And one of the points that kicked this whole conversation off is that because we have a connection to animals through this character, it also, we see their perspective of borders too. And how it doesn't matter, we'll cross borders, a home is a home. And so there's so much magic that is tied to the land and its people, and its capital P people. The humanity Kel sees in former bandits who become soldiers also cracks in the goodness of Tortall. I agree with that too. That's a really good point. I think that's a good intersection too of the justice system that she sees and was a part of. I think Kel's loyalty is to her morality and humanity in and of itself. And I don't know. I need to think further on that. You also feel like they glossed over the famine that was caused by using the jewel. Yes, they did. I think that's part of that. Like, I would love to have stories from the time where Jonathan and Thea and the whole new court were really struggling to establish these things. So because we know we got a new map, they commissioned a new map. They had a famine that they need to struggle with. There are consequences to the actions, and I would have loved to see them. Thea yelling at John for not bringing the Dominion jewel with him when he travels is so funny. Yeah. And they go on their like procession. The family, it's a very Tammy way to talk about an overuse of natural resources. Absolutely. I think she does that really well in the Circle of Magic series. I felt like the Circle of Magic series was really connected. I think, first of all, there's a lot of nationalism in the Circle of Magic series, particularly because we go to different nations, we see different types of rulers, have different interactions with these systems of power through the eyes of either somebody who's very entrenched, like Sandry, or people who are just passing through. So, but I think one of the threads that consistently runs through a lot of the Circle of Magic books is nature and use of nature and the magic of nature and our interaction with nature. So I see that very much too. They had typo. Oh, there's nothing but typos over here. You would love to have a book between Alana and Dane. Yes. We're on the same page here. What D&D alignments do we think everyone has? You feel like that affects their concept of loyalty? That's a really good question. I'm curious what other people think. Oh, I'm catching up on these comments. You would, yes, love to have a book between Alana and Dane from the point of view of a farmer. Ooh. Or just somebody or a seamstress, I think, could be very interesting because we have so many other instances of that. That would be so interesting to see those different kind of changes. Or somebody from the lower city. Give me Fatish during the era. You absolutely love that there were consequences to John using the jewel so strongly. I do too. John has a lot of consequences that he faces. I do. I like to hate on him a lot, but he does. He faces consequences and takes them like a champ for the most part, as far as we know. You wonder if the traders have any sense of nationalism. That's a really good question. And at what point is tribalism nationalism? I'll just hang that out there. It makes sense that the jewel must pull from somewhere. Yes. And the land and the person. Consequences. We love consequences for magic. Lateral versus moral. Yes, okay. No, come back, comment. Lateral versus vertical morality. Our women of Tortall are special because they see everyone as deserving. Yes. Absolutely. See the Discord. Yes, okay, I'm coming. Thank you all. I appreciate the prompt to go check out the Discord. Okay. Oh no! We're so sorry that we missed you. You feel like Allie's upbringing in Tortall, her parents, etc., forged her desire for change in the Copper Isles, and she moved through her journey with Dove and her found network. You feel like her loyalty shifted to them, but her love and respect for her father never wavered. I could totally agree with that, yeah. I think she was learning how to exercise, like, what is worth her loyalty, how to be loyal, and how to wield that loyalty in a powerful way. And I wonder how that reflects George's journey when he became the King of Thieves. I also think that Trickster's books were really interesting for a nationalism discussion. Yes. According to the timeline in the wiki, there are almost 300 years between the Lurarian, I'm not going to say that correctly, I apologize, conquest, and so we're getting there, y'all. I promise I can read. In the Lurarian conquest, in 174 human era, and the Raqqa rebellion during taking back the throne in 461 through 462 human era. This means that the Raqqa tracked the royal line for 300 years and stayed loyal to them throughout all of the hardship they endured, and was probably partially based on the prophecy saying they would return to power. Yes. That prophecy seeps in with the divine intervention. There's the divine intervention, there's prophecy. I wonder if you have... There's a question built in here. I'm trying to find it. It means that they tracked the royal line and stayed loyal to them throughout all of the hardship that they endured. And 300 years, that's wild. Oh, we have so many comments in here. Okay, I'm coming back, y'all. I appreciate everyone being here for this discussion. We're having a good time. I think Trev always made me think of the traders. Can you expand on that? Yes. Oh, good. Rachel, sir, yes. I would love to see a collection of short stories about the lives, past, or future of people of Haven. I agree with that. And I appreciate people in the comments pointing out Romani is the preferred use. Lateral versus moral. Okay, I'm catching up on comments. Traders absolutely have a similar type of pride in their culture and a way of life. Lateral versus moral. Lateral versus vertical morality. The code gives nobles a framework where they answer to the king and those of a similar status. Oh, yes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So you have... I'm not even going to jump in. It's been way too long since I was in moral philosophy. It's been over 10 years since I was in moral philosophy, so I'll just take a step back on that, but I will look back into it. You want a book on George? You would love to know more about his life. Me too. We see Allie's commitment to the cause when she is posed with the problem of killing the kid in line for the throne. Lou Arian, thank you. I will go through all of the audiobooks. Kel especially, you think, feels that whatever goes for the nobles should be applied to common folk. Yes. But they don't respect anyone lower. It shouldn't be more severe because they are less than for being pedants. Yes. I think that's also this question of where the morality is coming from. Like, who is dictating the morality that's going on? Is it something that's taught in like a chivalry from the crown? Are we going to an institution to learn how to behave as a noble? Or are we, it's always about the end, but are we looking more towards our peers rather than training ourselves to become part of the system? Are we learning as a reaction to the system that's been put in place? There are a lot of different ways to... Who is the moral authority? The crown, the gods, yes. And that was my question that we think about back for the justice and policing, those realms, those spheres of influence, and who is dictating the morality, the justice and policing? Who are we answering to? Is it the gods? How can you hold a peasant to the same standards as, say, a knight? That's a good question. I think in certain ways you must. How do you have a system that is able to hold them all? Yes, come hang out in the Discord link. Feudalism is just old school trickle-down economics. Love it. Reese added context for the tracking of the Rock of Royalty in the Discord track. Fabulous. I will get that. The resources they have access to are entirely different. Yes. The resources, their upbringing, their expectations, these systems of justice that they experience. I mean, the gods make mistakes all the time. They can't really be the moral authority. Ooh, I love it, Ren. Yeah, Ren, yes. Okay. They do make mistakes all the time. And we even have characters who talk back and change their mind and are the actual hands of fate for them. Tell them that. It got filtered. Oh no. 300 years is like 13 generations. TikTok doesn't like numbers. Oh, that's so sad. That is bizarre. 300 years is like 13 generations. That's so many generations. Makes me think of Emperor Mage a lot. Ooh, please do tell more. I would love to know more about that. It could be as few as 9 generations, but 12, 13 is probably more accurate. And what is that the loyalty to? The prophecy, the bloodline, the idea of a return, of building something new? Oh, the gods make mistakes, yes, in Emperor Mage all over the place. That was what I was thinking of too, talking about Dane talking back. The Badger God, the Karthaki goddess. And there's so much infighting with the gods as well. I wonder what the gods' view on each of the nations are. Like, they have ones that they are perhaps closer to, but they don't seem to get involved, save for our trickster god, in global political affairs very frequently. And even then, it's more of a preservation of idea or mass groups of people than the idea of a nation state. They messed up and they're fallible, yes. It seems like the greater gods have bigger fish to fry. Yes, they do. Bigger fish to fry. I'm catching up on the comments on the Discord too. Makes sense, especially if you ever had kids young. It's like people tracking secret descendants of George Washington, daughters of the American Revolution or something like that. Yeah, and Indigenous people are known to have kids young. I think today's political views and issues with nationalism and extreme conservative issues on top of the wealth gap has really strong parallels with Mastiff, and the whole treason and plot with mages getting mad about being taxed hits home with the billionaires and taxes in today's society. Yes, Cal. Yes. Yes. I'm really excited for us to read Mastiff and to get there. I've been seeing the seeds of it that have been planted in Bloodhound and Terrier. And it really just builds that class divide, which has always been so stark in these books, really, really builds. And as much as we talk about the loyalty for the dogs in the first couple of books, it really expands much more so in Mastiff. So I think that's a really amazing point to bring up. Thank you. Also, I think the Raka were holding on to the prophecy for hope that their cultural identity could be kept safe and brought back to the forefront once the prophecy came to pass. I think that's an important point, because we do see that they hold on very strategically, they hold on to their cultural identity as much as they could. You mentioned George Washington because you don't know any names of people from that era other than founding fathers, unfortunately. That's all right. Oh, I'm catching up on these comments on the chat. I mean, the Karthaki goddess got involved with the Copper Isles for giggles. Yes. And the question is, do gods gain power from having more believers? If so, they have a vested interest. Yes, I think that's a really good question. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head if there are But it's been a while for Mastiff. It's been a while for Mastiff. And one of the things I'm really curious about is the difference between the thoughts around the Great Mother Goddess and the Threefold Goddess between Becca's books and Alana's books. But I think your question of do gods gain power from more believers, if so they have a vested interest, absolutely would determine whether or not they really got involved. The graveyard hag did not like the emperor. That is true. That is true. Who wouldn't, especially if you're the graveyard hag, who wouldn't want worshippers? It almost reminds me of Snake Falls to Earth. I think it's what it's called. It's a really good book. And the whole premise of it is that if an animal or species goes extinct on Earth, then the god of it dies in the divine realm. And that made me think about Dane's books quite a bit. And so, I know, I'm off track. I'm coming back. It was also for power. The crone lost power when they weren't worshiping her. Yes, okay, this was it. This is exactly the thing that it's ringing bells in the back of my head, but it's been a while since I've reread Bloodhound and Mastiff, and so I'm excited to reread and look more into it. And if you are new here, we do this every Wednesday. We hang out on live and talk about Tamora Pierce. We're at a point now where we are rereading Tortall in a chronological order, and so we started with Becca's book, and we've gotten through, we got through Terrier. We talked about it at the beginning of this month, and so the beginning of next week, we're going to be talking about Bloodhound. As you can tell, I have a lot to do. So, I hope you're reading, because we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be fantastic. But until then, I'm going to catch up on these comments. Okay. Yes, I'm so excited for it. So thank you for pointing that out. I'm really excited about looking at religion and how that pans out for the rest of Becca's books, and death. That's another big one. You're helping some over others and favoring one nation over another. The question, okay. If so, they have a vested interest in helping some over others and following one nation over another. I got you. I'm reading the full comment. I hate that TikTok only gives you this much space. We're trying to have a good discussion. It seems like the gods are manifestations of the people who venerate them. You have my wheels going. Interesting. Okay, I would love to know more, because I have thoughts, but I don't want to jump in. The graveyard hag. I think you can remember a name. Let's see. When were the Noble books written? Do we have dates on those? We do! I believe so. A million thank yous to the person who sent this to me. I don't know if you are in the live right now, but I love it. Thank you. I don't want to sit and just look for the books. So I'll log that and see about those Noble dates, because I think it's in here. Especially in Tunsil, we see that class divide wreck him, broke your heart. Yes. And it's set up so early on. That deep betrayal. So frustrating. I had to stop and squeak out the Tamora Pierce in the background and the foreground. Come join us. We have a great time. We do this every Wednesday. Exactly. You can see the morality is compromised when they are facing extinction. Survival over everything. And we see that Tamora Pierce, I think, shows that in some very desperate scenarios. I think they do because they remember that the trickster lost power when the Raka were ousted. Oh yes, that is. I think the trickster god always occupies a really interesting place in the cultural pantheon, almost no matter what culture you look at that has an explicit trickster god. And it's hard to hold power when you are defined by uncertainty and defined by subverting standards and norms. It's difficult to hold power. You can hold you hold places of respect. I think it's really interesting how they combine, and I think they are worthy of power. But it's your comment just made me think about other instances of trickster gods and the places that they hold, and they have their own like very special, unique power and respect. So I'm curious. Yeah. You remember Kryptoth gains power? Yes, gaining power. And I wonder if that is due to, I don't think it's due to nationalism that Kryptoth gains power. I'm curious where the prophecy comes in. As my brain is going so much. I love this book club because I can you all have great ideas, and I wish I were able to talk about these books so much when I was younger, and I'm so thankful I get to now. So it seems Mithras and the goddess favor Tortall. I think so. I think they were claimed. Jennifer Fallon's Meldon series explores similar ideas about gods dividing their powers. Highly recommended. Ooh! If you are in the Discord, I would love for you to add that in the book recommendations thread. Because I love a story with the divine realm and going between realms. Love it, love it, love it. And dividing power, yes please. I'm also a Buffy fanatic, and I think we are all Slayers. We can share the power. You would say they favor most of the eastern lands. Yes, I think that broader division makes more sense. Or until another god makes them, like Dane's mom. That's a very interesting point with Dane's mom, because that's a very specific location. Like, she is the green goddess. Gala green goddess. Ooh, I'm catching up on these. I love how many comments there are. You all are fantastic. Yes, okay. I think it's in here. Yes, I think so. Perhaps they have no need for a nation with Mithras as warriors and goddess women. With the followers, yes. Oh, and the statues. That makes me think about the statues in Emperor Mage. The hag favors and gets her main power from Karthak, and the trickster duo Mithras and Goddess are also called on from the other side of the world. You think some are clearly more universal than others, definitely. And have broader jurisdiction. There are local gods too. The trickster gods are almost always the outcast, yes. I always wondered about the creation myths in these books. Me too. I have always wondered about the creation myths and how they change depending on who is telling them. And for what parts of the world. And are there specific ones for specific parts of the world? I'm so glad I'm not the only one that's wondered that. It seems like Mithras was really involved with the royal bloodline for Tortall. Yes, and I know we get a lot of the goddess. In Realm of Gods, it said the god was half chaos. It said Dream God was half chaos power. I love the Dream God, and I also love the chaos. I love chaos. You think the Trickster God would also be half chaos, like in Buffy? I love that image. Dane's mom, the Green Lady. Yes, the Green Lady. And it was for a local. She was a local Green Lady. Nation states and dominating culture is probably a better play for a minor god to ensure followers. the next story is writing itself. And I'm also really curious about the who becomes minor gods in particular, because we see it with Dane's mom. Who else has become a minor or local god? What's their backstory? How do they influence their area? Dane's mom is giving God of a repo. Yes. Yes, it is. That's one of my favorite Tumblr posts. Did I miss half your comment? Oh no. I'll try to go up and see it. Oh, the creation myths in the books, because in my culture, trickster gods are creators of humanity. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. That was an important second part. Sometimes the comments will just refresh and I'll get a huge batch of them all at the same time and I have to scroll and try to find. So I apologize if I've missed it. I feel like there's something about how the characters of the least God touched are the most involved in helping the little people. I think that's a really important point. Kel especially, I think she's chamber chosen, which is different than being chosen by a god or goddess. I think Kel is more sent on a mission, a very specific mission, and the gods and goddesses kind of offer blanket protection and guidance and a ish direction rather than go do this thing. And I think that's also a difference in Kel's character too. Sarah got to become Green Lady because there was a need. I'd love to be... How does one create a need for a god? I have a list. I would like to start. If there is a god of this, yes, the god of small things. It seemed like anytime you were the first of your species or something, you became a minor god. Yes, the need. So at what point of evolution are we getting a new species? Maybe the gods are in an MLM and the Green Lady is just the right person down the line. Can you imagine the benefits? That would be so great. Get to live there. Might be sent to be with the dragons, though. You have to be careful. You were just thinking this. They aren't tied to a defined purpose. Becca is God touch, but they don't talk to her. And Kel is given a shove, but not to win a war per se, but to save people that are further taking. Yes, I think Kel had a very specific purpose that she was given. Becca, yes, Becca has magic touched by the god of death. Hello. It said no magic could affect the chamber, so do we think it's a god made? I personally classify the chamber in the same way that I classify Faithful, Pounce. It's just an other. An other magic, divine, just an other. Those that operate outside the laws of God and man. Kel is given a shove. Oh, I'm catching up on these. Yes, I did that one. She's technically one of Death's favorites. Could you imagine that being your nickname? Like, Reaper, fear me. Yes. That's how they claim she gets the sight. I think there's a both and with her, because the sight continues down with George and Allie, but I think it's the pigeons that connect her with Death. If a species goes extinct, does its god die? That's a good question. I'm curious, or do they just live in the divine realm and are unable to influence or do anything in the mortal one? Or we think about dragons, the immortals there. There are plenty of immortals before it was sealed that were no longer found until the mages broke that open. And so I don't think so. I think they would just hang out in the Divine Realm. But they're not immortals, so it's totally a different thing. It's a good question. No bad. Put dates on for the Noble books and input on... Oh, good. Thank you. Okay. Checking the Discord now. Fabulous. So the Book of Gold is from 795 AE, about 105 years before the Human Era started. The Book of Silver is like right around when the Human Era started, so 900 AE to 01 Human Era. Then we have Book of Copper, 200 Human Era. For Dane's mom, and it's mentioned that her existence seems to be retroactive. Mortals remember her, although I think she's a regional goddess of the northernest mountain rural region, which includes parts of Gala. Fantastic. I appreciate your research and help. And then Reese also shared an organizational chart for the Royal Spy Service, and that I show off here because we have a page number. Voila! And of course, it's all backwards. Put a picture in the Discord server. Thank you. You wonder who was able to become a god of a gut microbiome. Love it. I think if there's a need, right, one will manifest. I think the chamber is more similar to the Yeti thing that gave Alana the jewel rather than Faithful. That's a good idea. I see that. I think it's more of the land, of the earth rather than of the stars. The site is in her father's family. You keep thinking of the God of Broken Sandals from God Killer trilogy. Interesting. Her wind magic is connected to death. Yes. She has a lot of magic. Becca has a lot of magic. And I don't feel like it's taken as seriously as Alana or Dane's magic. She's just like brimming with it. You want to say that's how Granny Fern defined it? So yeah, probably not accurate. Granny Fern. Becca's magic was more of wild magic while George had sight. Becca's father also had pigeons and spinners. Yeah, Sarah had minor gift and Dane was all the wild magic, mind you. It was due to her dad. So yes, Dane had a direct bloodline to the gods and to her wild magic. Catching up on these. Kind of seems like the Black God had a connection to the Coopers more generally, at least a few. I can see that. Or having it all kind of build up into a person, or having all of these traits combine within a person would be worthy of making contact. You just realize that Bury is younger than Thayet. I don't remember how much younger. But Bury always gave off the, I'm going to be protective, even if I am 2 feet tall vibe. So more like elemental magics, which are older than the gods themselves. I like that take too. I know we've talked before about we don't think so, but it would be very interesting if the Circle of Magic showed up in Tortall in different ways. And if it did, it would probably be closest to Becca's magic. If extinction was the consequence of extinction, animal gods probably wouldn't let it happen. Absolutely, I could see that. I could also see, it would be interesting if there were a story around it, because I could also see accidents, like the badger goes away for a while and doesn't understand how long time passes in the mortal realm. I don't know. I'd be curious. I don't think they would try to have it happen, but I could see a really interesting storyline around that. Part of why her magic is downplayed is because we read from her point of view. And she doesn't recognize how strong magic she is. I agree with that completely, Can. Yes, we do. It is all her point of view, and I think she downplays a lot of things. One of the things I think she downplays the most besides magic is her fighting skills. Or her fighting skills. I think she's a much better fighter than she lets on. And the contexts around that are what other people say and how she talks about the fight, but she really downplays her fighting skills. And the magic. Do you think the gods just sort of yelled out, who owns this one? No one, we can use it, about Cal. I could totally see that. I could totally say that. I was just like, she's proven herself. I could see even starting from the Spinnerin that she slayed, saving some kitties from the start, being like, we'll keep our eyes on this one. Hendrik said, oh, wasn't George's mother a disciple of the goddess? I think she was trained in the temple, but I think she was kicked out of the temple. Or left the temple. Yes, she was. I always forget that reading Dane and Kel's books, but she's so young when Lana meets her. Yes. Not to completely derail the convo, but has anyone heard about Numer Book 2? I have not for a while. There were rumblings that there would only be a book 2. Book 3 would not be happening. But I haven't heard anything specifically. The Cooper line in general is just like the gods play things honestly. A death, goddesses, and trickster. Yeah. Especially when Alana shoved herself in there. It's like, oh. I would love to know what the twins' lives are like. If they have any encounters with gods. Spiderins. We'll see. I need to do the audiobooks again. It's been a long time since I've done those audiobooks. I think one of the interesting things about Cal is that unlike the gods, the chamber exists outside of time. That's a really good point too. And I think because of that, ideas of borders and nation states don't matter. Even the gods, to a certain extent, don't matter. They posted Tammy working on a map that, Tamora announced today that Halloween would be all tricks, no treats, possibly for Patreon. Oh, good. I haven't checked today. I should check. I am a part of the Patreon and the Facebook group and the Discord server. We have one for our book club, and then there's like a main Tamora Pierce one that I'm a part of too. I have not gotten on to see in a little bit. She was kicked. It was alluded to that she was kicked because of her pregnancy with George. That makes sense, that the gods are so tied to nationalism as religion. It's often used to other. Ooh, that's a very good point. I can't remember the chamber saying something like, I know nothing of your human borders. That rings bell. We'll catch up on these. All right, we have a quote. Thank you. I'm like, Leo, you were doing the most. I love it. Thank you. I'm not part of your ideas of time. You mortals are like fish swimming in a globe of glass. The globe is your world. You do not see beyond it. I am all around the globe, everywhere at once. I am your yesterdays and your tomorrows, just as I am your today, and it all looks the same to me. The Chamber of the Ordeal, on its divinity to Cal and Lady Night. Thank you for that quote. Asking where the Nothing Man was. Oh, yes. Absolutely, Caitlin. It's part of that extension. Outside of borders, outside of time. He's just trying to send her on a mission. You wonder how Tortall got the chamber. Good question. I do too. It had to come from somewhere. Who discovered it? That would have been a rough discovery. The chamber knew that Kel was going to meet Bryce, so I always wondered if that's why it chose her. I think so. I think it's the idea of the time and place and person and being able to select and slightly guide where you can. But in a lot of books, George is reprimanded by the goddess through his mother. Your theory is that capital was built around it. I like that theory. I could see the capital being built around it. I could see it being a hub of power for all of Tortall. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg type question? Yes. Wonder if other countries have chambers and it's all the same one. We don't get that perspective. Even though we get to meet knights from other realms, it would be really interesting to see their perspective. I would love to know what Lady Sabine's Chamber of the Ordeal was. That would be very curious. I'm very curious for that. What if the palace was built around the chamber? Good. I love we're all just kind of on the same page. It's mentioned by forensic parents that the chamber was a gift from the gods. Jordan's parents that the chamber was a gift from the gods. Yes. How much god involvement do they have? They were out time in space. Could that be projected on? Thank you for bringing that up. You're going to go with meteorite. Okay. It's a falling constellation. You want to know what Roger's ordeal was and how he passed? I agree. I think that would be really interesting to see what fears he had to overcome and if they showed up later. That's a very good one. I like that. It makes you believe he didn't become evil until later on. I see that too. I think that Roger, like so many of the other young nobles and knights that we see, is slowly over time seduced by power. And then finds that he's very good at gaining power and keeping power and manipulating people. And I think that's a really interesting thought process to go down, because I was an advocate on Capitol Hill for a while, and the closer you are to power, I think more you are willing to cross moral lines you didn't know you had to keep and maintain power. And I think some people get really swept up in it and see it as a good justification. Maybe in Roger's eyes, he really thought he was the best person for Tortall. People are so rarely the evil villain of their own stories. And I wonder where that started for Roger. But I think just like a lot of the other young nobles, he had an eye for power and then was charming and manipulative and was able to keep and maintain it. You would love a book about Sabine. Me too. I love her life growing up with the king and they're falling out. Exactly. I want to know it all. I want to know about her training. We see her predominantly with men. She's usually the only lady knight that's there. I want to know what her experience was like. I've said this before, I'll say it a million more times. I really would love the book that Kel is given, I think by Neil, about lady knights in history. And I'm sure Sabine has a little chapter. Okay, catching up on these comments. It makes me wonder how the chamber decides, like what kind Which kind of goes back to morality. Absolutely. That's a really, thank you for bringing us all the way back around. I agree with that. I think there are, this question of what is right and wrong in Tamora Pierce's worlds. And there are certain things that I think we know Tamora Pierce, like, this is a good, just, right thing. And then there are things that have a little bit more of a morally gray area. But who decides where that comes from? Who gets access to what is very interesting. And that, like, Alex, he had a choice. For Roger, yes, I think so. It's also mentioned in a lot of books that the palace is built on the ruins of the old ones. So it was the first chamber built by the old ones or after them. Yes, I had forgotten about that. I forgot it was built on the ruins of the old ones. Thank you for bringing that up, Mint. Like, how did Roger pass his ordeal, but Jordan died? I don't know. The chamber needed some things to play out, perhaps. I think Roger, you don't think Roger started out bad, but thought his idea of how the kingdom should run is better than what was happening. I agree. I think so too. I don't think people set out to be the villains of their stories. I think Roger also really wanted to have his chance, his lines of to be part of that line of succession. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, it does. My question is, why didn't the chamber intervene and deny knighthoods until after Kell intervened? That's a good question. I think Kell... I'm really interested between the connection of Kell and the chamber. I want to know... I think Kell had a strong connection. She went over and over again. Let's see if other people in the comments have a thought about that too. You also have to wonder what age he did the ordeal and who he was then. Absolutely. You think because Roger could be flexible in his belief and Jordan was so inflexible. That's a really astute observation. That is such a big difference between the two of them. Roger could be convinced. We have a writer's recruitment poster. There's white nationalist propaganda poster in the Spy's Guide for a writer's recruitment poster. I'll have to take a look at that. Read that fully. Maybe we could talk about that next week. Oh, or with the writers. Because it's a both and. Or he excelled at a young age and hit a glass ceiling. And I think the glass ceiling is that he got a nephew. And it wasn't his turn to be king. Or not a nephew, a cousin. He just wanted to be the king. Maybe Roger had a sketchy brain and Jordan already acted horribly. There's propaganda posters. Yeah, this is an interesting read. I'll definitely do some more on it. Next week is Bloodhound. Yes, we're gonna do Bloodhound. John was the king. So glad you were here. I'm gonna have to bow out here soon too. We've been at it for an hour, y'all. We mildly stayed on topic. He was John's Nightmaster. Ooh, catching up. So many great comments. We needed Tortal in other lands too, I agree. Roger was described as, there are so many comments I'm catching up on. Okay. Y'all are great. The ordeal would also really seal Kell's credibility as a new knight. Yes, that was an important part of Kell's connection with the chamber. But the quote about divinity in the chamber exists in all time, so it would have known. That's also an interesting concept of foresight. I wonder who, if anyone else, was chamber chosen. Roger was described as charming. Yes, we do need Tortall in other lands. I wonder if Roger would have been a bad king. That's a good question. I think we see a bit about what he would do with the sweating sickness and how he was so ready to unleash literal plague on a city. Someplace that would have been his home. So I don't know how well that his skills would have translated into being a king. You think Jordan died because of his past actions, his mean friends past beat before entering? I think there's a both and there. I also wonder, I think Tamora Pierce is very clear about SA in all of her universes, and that is one of the realities, and yet is also addressed in various different levels throughout her books. And so I think there's also a moment there. I think that's also tied to that morality with the chamber and Jordan's storyline. So why kill Jordan but not other knights who grow up to be the villains? I think that's a good question. Because I think it's also, what is the villain? Is the chamber seeing something down the line and doing what it can? Is it giving other people a chance? Whereas Jordan was shown it doesn't need one. You want more short stories? Yay! Perhaps the chamber needed Roger and his actions to force change. I think I postulate that as well. Like, I might be misremembering showing all the bruises and injuries he gave women to confess. Yes. Those were connected. I think the chamber takes a very strong stance against SA. Was Roger actually knighted? I think so. But then he goes by Duke instead of Sir because it's a higher ranking? Question mark, question mark? Time might not be set in stone, shifting futures based on choices. I think that's a good one. And also, we know that chaos is a god. Chaos is always in the chat when it comes to future. And so I wonder if Jordan's future, even with chaos's influence, there was no hope for him. Something about it earlier, more their inflexibility and who they are. Maybe the chamber understands villains are important to challenge people and push growth. I think over the centuries, the chamber, I wonder if there's a trial and failure rate for the chamber, and it's learned over the time what to do. Or maybe another thought is some of them just aren't worth the ordeal's time. Another thought is that the individuals just couldn't handle the specific part of their ordeal. What we see from the Chamber of Ordeal are things that our characters have had to confront. And so we know their fears. We know that for the most part, they've already confronted them in some way, shape, or form. And so they're seeing them again in the chamber. And I wonder if Jordan confronted things or had things in the chamber he wasn't ready to confront. He was John's Night Master, yes. Jordan was tested, but he couldn't bend in his beliefs, even a little. I personally think that he was tested with seeing Knight Kell. Oh, we're so glad you're here. So the king next week is Bloodhound. Ooh, catching up on this. Roger could have also been influenced by his time in Carthage and the history of bloodshed there. We should probably start on that this weekend. Yes! Start on Bloodhound this weekend. I know I need to. We'll get there. I don't know if it'll be as done as that, but this is going to be my focus after this. Bloodhound is the hardest book for you to get through. I can see that. It is. Tamora Pierce even writes in Bloodhound a portion of it just being like, I was questioning the entire premise of this book and whether or not anyone would find it interesting. I did, but she fully appreciates that money laundering and forgery are not for everyone. Also, if you are newish here, these are the hardest ones for me to get through. I'm not a huge fan of the diary entry, and they're just long for me to not like the point of view. So, I really enjoyed my reread of Terrier, though, so I'm hoping that it continues for Bloodhound and Mastiff. Well, I point bonus book club in Discord. Yes, thank you, Reese, for putting that up there. After this, I am going to take off some of my makeup before joining the Discord. Just because I might, yes. But please join the Discord server. Reese has shared a link. We also have it in my bio. We'd love to have you there. We talk for a little while afterwards on the voice chat. There's also really great channels throughout. We have a good time on there. We should revisit the nationalism talk after reading Mastiff. I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. We can come back to that. Today we were a little all over the place, so I think there's plenty of opportunity to talk about that. I think today we talked a lot about just different kinds of power and morality is kind of how I would summarize that. Power, morality, loyalty. We were all over the place today. Okay, I'm still catching up on these comments. I think it could be a situation where, like, the magic he learned affected him like dark magic in Harry Potter. Interesting. I could see that too. I think we see that magic really does affect the form and body. We see it a lot with Tom. You think Roger met Gyan Orza? I do, and it is one of the things that I have been looking for in the new Mare books. I also think there's going to be some sort of reference to, like, hearing about a knight that turned out to be a lady in the later portions of it. I think there would be just a line in it. I do think that there is somewhere in the new Mare books at the beginning where they talk about this streak in the sky. I think it's the announcing the birth of Dane. I'll get there. We'll get there when we reread it. I'm not pressing myself. We'll get there. I think that with Jordan, there is a comment that he was too rigid in his beliefs. Yes. Question, could Roger and New Mare overlap in Carthag, or do we have dates or countries wrong? I think they did. I love that everyone's immediately on the same page. This is perfect. When confronted with things Jordan couldn't agree with, he had no way to confront it. Yes, with that inflexible belief. What if we see Roger in New Mare Book 2? I think that would be lovely. I would love to see Roger in New Mare Book 2. I feel like I'm really rigid in your thinking. No ordeal for you. I think there's rigid in thinking, and I think one of the things that prevails in the chamber is a form of rigidity of thinking. I think Alana's is about survival. And I think Kel's is about service and morality, and it's just they don't waver in those aspects of their thinking. They're very rigid. Maybe I'm trying to help. Yes, I love how we are all, it would be great. Gonna be sad now if it's not in book 2. Me too. We never know with Tammy, that's right. It's possible they would have met since Roger was visiting royals in another land. They probably would have met a few times. Trying to lay a fussy baby down, but the chamber makes them face their fears. The imagery. Rigidity can be a strength and a weakness, could be balanced by other traits. Absolutely. I don't think it's necessarily an arbiter of morality. Absolutely. Okay, no Roger in New Mare Book 2. Roger was in Carthag in 431 and New Mare was born in 424. Maybe. We can see. I'm hopeful. Maybe he took a trip. If it's not Roger, I think it's going to be somebody else. I do think there will be other opportunities for them to slip in. If the chamber was originally a quest type oracle, like it was with Kel, and became a test later. Ooh, I like that idea too. I wonder how the chamber is connected more so in history. That's something I'll look for in these books. Maybe Sabine talks about it a little bit. I'll have to see. Perhaps Roger was confronted with his own mediocrity in Carthag and that radicalized him. I see your train of thought. He was supposedly the most powerful mage for a bit. Book 1 takes place in 434-35. Just plain Orezone for Roger. Maybe the squire who got bruised and beat feared accountability. Interesting. I think that could be part of it. Yeah, feared accountability. I also do think that the chamber has a very strong stance against assault, in SA in particular. Literally just until Numair turned 6. It's all right. Magical kid. Maybe we'll hear about him. Fantastic. This has been wonderful, y'all. I am going to open the floor for any last minute thoughts or anything. This has been a really great time. I appreciate you all putting up with me dressed up. I wasn't going to let it go to waste. And I hope you all have a fabulous Halloween. Any last thoughts about nationalism or anything else that we've been talking about today? Please join the Discord server, follow along. We have a voice chat afterwards. It's very talkative. It goes off topic a lot, but we still have a great time. We still have a good time. So I hope, just because at 6 he had too much magic for Tyrian teachers, a few hours. Fantastic, y'all. Okay, we had another successful book club. Appreciate you all being here. I hope you all have a safe and happy time. Halloween. I will see you all next week when we are going to talk about bloodhounds. See you all.